Well, welcome to the Faithful Fathering Podcast. My name is Rick Wirtz, founder and president of Faithful Fathering, where we encourage and equip dads to be faithful fathers. That's a dad that prioritizes physical presence, is engaged emotionally, and leads spiritually by example. And this week we're going to be, this series of podcasts, we're going to be talking about Mother's Day, because that's a pretty special day coming up. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the seasons of fathering as we look to the summer, and just reminding dads where they are, why they're there, and with some tips on how we can orchestrate through this time is pretty important. So we'll be touching on those across this series of podcasts. And before I introduce our guests, I do want to remind you to visit the website at faithfulfathering.org. You can click on the For Dads button, where you can access training materials, vlogs, and tips for dads that very much complement this podcast. And of course, we always try to keep this a very practical conversation so that we can get you some good, just grounded advice from men of God. And that man of God that's visiting us and on the podcast this week is Mr. Ryan Cantu. Welcome, John.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you and talk to you. I already just the first 10 minutes before the show started. It's been a pleasure to hear your heart.
Well, blessing to be here, be here with you. And I know you're the pastor at the Numa Church. You're a husband. You're a man, a husband, and a father. So we're going to go with those pronouns, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And want to just give you a chance to introduce yourself. Tell a little bit about your story.
Yeah. So I am, like you said, I'm a father of two little girls, Layla and Ellie, 7 and 3. So got a house full of women, and got to deal with that. My wife of going on 11 years, Melissa, she's just the love of my life. Been in ministry for a very long time. I am pastoring our church now, lead pastoring for about 4 years. Mm-hmm. Before that, my dad pastored the church that I now pastor. He pastored for about 17 years. And then before that was my grandfather. So ministry, kind of runs in our veins. And, it's never something I wanted to do. I never wanted to be a pastor. It was actually the thing that I thought was never going to happen, Mm-hmm. And growing up, you would always hear, the sisters in the church saying, "Hey, you're going to be the next pastor, right?" And I would say, "Hey, you're prophesying to me, right?" But God really started to burn in my heart, and so that's what we're doing now. We're just serving our church, and it's been a blessing. Just
tell God what you want to do, and you'll laugh, right?
Exactly. That's it. That's it.
Well, fantastic. And generational pastoring, that's quite you tell a bit about your granddad. What was his story?
My grandfather, he pastored for 35 years. He's originally from Colorado. I don't really remember when he moved down here, but he had a heart for people, and I mean, as long as I can remember, he dedicated me in our church. We have the picture and everything. But he was just a beautiful man of God. Loved the Lord. Loved the Word. There's a lot that I learned from him, growing up, and, he passed away maybe 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I was a teenager, but just watching the way that he carried himself and spoke to people and loved people, and just, hearing his sermons, it had a pretty good effect on my life. My dad was actually not his son, but son-in-law. Mm-hmm. There was a lot. I got to witness that transition process between, mm-hmm. My grandfather and him. And anytime there's a transition season, you always think that, okay, I'm going to do things better and, mm-hmm. and differently. And I honestly took the same approach when we transitioned as well. Mm-hmm. But it's just when you're in that role, you start to realize it's not as easy as you thought it was going to be, and you have so much more respect for the person who came before you. Sure, and so, I mean, just being a pastor, I've always respected my dad and my grandfather, but now being a pastor, I respect them as pastors, right. And I have my grandfather's, it was like a 25-year anniversary Bible that they gave him, that the church mm-hmm. gave him. I have it sitting in my drawer, so I got the spirit of my grandfather there with me in my office. So,
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, that's there's a reason God gave us that fifth commandment to honor your father and
That's
your mother,
right.
because we don't know what that generation went through.
Yeah.
But we know once we get into try to fill their shoes, we realize how tough they had
Absolutely.
it, and respect what
Yes.
they've had. So,
Yes.
sometimes from our perspective, they aren't that honorable, but Jesus, the Lord doesn't give us that
Right.
option. He says,
Exactly.
honor them. And as we look at that, honoring our mothers too, it says, honor your father and your mother. And we're coming into that Hallmark holiday called Mother's Day.
Yes.
I don't like Hallmark holidays, but at the same time, it is a wonderful time to recognize and honor our mothers, to
Sure.
be very intentional about the deal. And of course, I encourage dads and kids to do that all the time. But there are a couple of pretty key moms in Scripture. I think of Mary and Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And I love the passage from Luke that says, when Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the baby leaped in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled with joy with the Holy Spirit. In a loud voice she exclaimed, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the child you will bear." And I just thought, these two very unexpectedly expecting mothers.
Yeah.
You one a virgin and the other way past barren.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was quite a time in
Oh, yeah.
Scripture, and to see, of course, both of them. They changed the course of history with John the Baptist.
Absolutely.
And of course Jesus the Christ. And the challenge then is they were going to. We don't know that Elizabeth lived to see John martyred,
Sure.
but of course Mary did. But quite a role, and these moms have quite a task in life, don't they?
Oh,
You think
absolutely.
about childbirth and all the things that they carry. They carry them in the womb for 9 months, give birth, and then they labor to raise them properly. And you talked earlier about how women are so strong in the church as well. What a
Yes.
blessing they
Yes,
are.
absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about your mother and how you've honored her, and what your thoughts are as you get ready to preach for Mother's Day.
Yeah, my mom is. She's also a love of my life. I'm a mama's boy, 100%. I have two younger sisters, and they always criticize me of being the favorite. And my mom has yet to deny it yet, so that's saying something. But no, I mean,
She always says you're her favorite son.
yeah, exactly. But no, my mom, I mean, she's the reason for many good things in my life and in my faith. I've witnessed my mom have just an incredible gift of faith that I haven't seen in so many other people. And growing up, I would always kind of criticize it, thinking like, well, how is it that you can be this positive in the midst of adversity, and my dad's more he's more the wisdom guy, my mom is more of the faith person, right? And I mean, a beautiful balance of both. I think you need that. But yeah, just I kind of take after my dad a little bit more, and that I like to think, logically and rationally and all that stuff. But just her display of faith, it has really impacted my life and my faith, and she's really taught me how to have faith. And I think without her, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so I'm indebted to my mom for.
Is there anything in particular you remember her doing or saying or a practice that she had? Anything along those lines?
This is kind of a weird memory, but I do remember, being kids, kind of just, me and my sisters, we were brats, we were just being kids, and she was a stay-at-home mom, and we wouldn't make her life easy, and we'd be very demanding sometimes, and would take her for granted. And I remember one time we were at the house, and all of a sudden we didn't know where my mom was, and we were calling out for her, and we were looking everywhere for her, and we were freaking out. And I was trying to calm my little sisters down, like, she's got to be here somewhere, maybe she just went out, I don't know, to down the street or something. It felt like 20 minutes. It was probably really like 3 minutes.
Right.
But she pops out of hiding. She was hiding, and she basically said, like, that's what it would be like if I wasn't here. And that really, I was a kid, but it kind of shook me for a moment as a kid. Like, I need my mom.
Uh-huh.
Like, I need my mom, and I need to honor her more, respect her more, and not take her for granted, because my mom is still, fairly young, but you're always thinking about the day where they're not here, and I want to make this the the best years of our lives as mother and son.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I can attest that with 3 older sisters, they all think I was a favorite as well. So that's just it is
It's
what
probably
it is,
true.
right?
It was probably true.
Well, I think the moms are so critical. My mother, in particular, she was also the most faith-filled person I think I've ever known as
Yeah.
well. She just had a lot of body blows thrown at her across her life, and born in the 1921, and then going through the Depression
Yeah.
and World War II, and contracting tuberculosis when she had a professionally professional level vocal quality of her voice, and she had a scholarship to go to high school, and then she contracted tuberculosis, so the scholarship was gone, college was gone, and the man she married came back from World War II, quite a different man than she thought, and because of the PTSD, which they didn't recognize back then, and so it left to quite a journey for her. But she always had a relationship with Christ. She was a devout Catholic, and but her gift was prayer, and she would tell me that she was praying for me every day, and she had no idea the valleys that I was in, and but her prayerful support every day is a reason why I'm here. So we can both credit our moms for that journey.
Moms are something else. Oh, absolutely.
Your moms are pretty uniquely gifted. I know. Erica Commissar is a psychotherapist and also an author, and she wrote a book called "Being There." Why mothering why you prioritize mothering in the first 3 years of a child's life, and that's really quite a shock to a lot of. She lives up on the Upper East Side of New York, and a lot of women in the feminist movement think so. You've set women back 50 years, and she says, no, I'm just saying to understand how critical mothers are. And she goes into the biology that this oxytocin that a mom generates, the love hormone, is something only mom can do, and only mom can pass it on to a child and help a child generate their own oxytocin, which actually leads them into a better place later in life where they can handle stress a lot better because they've had that influx of oxytocin from mom. So when mom is checked out and busy in the world in those first 3 years and relying on daycare or whatever, I'm not slamming that situation. I'm just encouraging all moms and all couples to really pray through, particularly early years, to see is there a way that mom can prioritize mothering in the first 3 years.
Yeah, no, I think that's very, very important as well, and I think that's the divine decree. I think God created just women in general to be the nurturers, right? And there's a reason that kids want mommy, instead of daddy. And I've got a 3-year-old who, she's kids are blunt. They say what's on their mind. They're not trying to spare feelings. I'll reach out to her, and my little girl obviously loves me, and I love her to death. But sometimes she wants mom. And actually yesterday I was trying to get her out of the car seat, and she says, "No, I want mommy." And I said, "What's wrong with me?" And then she says, "Mommy's better," just like that, And there's a reason for that. There's a reason that children are drawn to their mothers because they are, I think that has a lot to do with it. The biology has a lot to do with it, and so when you kind of suppress that, I think it leaves a pretty big void in the lives of children because dads. I'm not saying that we don't love our children, but there's a little bit of a disconnect. We don't perhaps do it as well as moms do.
Well, dads have a different hormone called vasopressin that is the more aggressive, the defending. So we're the ones that let them ride. We're the ones that let them take chances. They're first to fall off the bike. We're the ones that clean up the scrapes and bleed, heal the wounds, that type of thing. So it's a different kind of nurturing. There's absolutely that dynamic, and there's always going to be peaks and valleys. There's the teen years. Moms and daughters tend to have a lot of conflict, and dad can step in and take daughter out on a date and smooth things over then through that time. So those are things you have to look forward to. But I would say I always encourage dads to date their daughters, give mom a little bit of a break as well, but just realize it does get more expensive as they get older, and that's okay because then you're you're opening the door for them in on your car. It rules out 95% of the boys in school. So that's okay too. So, well, Mom, the passage actually says there's a passage in Proverbs says, "Keep your father's command and do not forsake your mother's teaching." Can you recall some teaching that your mother laid on you? If you're homeschooled, obviously there was a lot of that going on.
Yeah. My mom's teaching, I just remember her spiritual wisdom in regards to just, trusting God, I think, and I know I already talked about it earlier, but it really has impacted, who I am today, because now I am the person to say, hey, let's just trust in God. We don't know what's going on here. Let's just keep going. Let's have faith. And that was something that she really, really instilled in me. Obviously the more practical stuff. Be polite. Have manners. Say thank you. All of that stuff that doesn't come really natural to kids. All of that she really instructed me in. She instructed me to have really just to love people. To give, for lack of a better way of saying it, give people like stellar customer service. Don't be rude. Don't be rude to the waiters, the waitresses, the cash registers, whatever it is. Give people, just the best version of yourself, and be kind to the world. So that was all my mom. It's really molded me into who I am today, and I could pass that along to my children. Obviously,
sure. Yeah, I think that mom's. I think she was the religious one. Obviously in Catholicism, it is a very highly religious. A lot of traditions and a lot of things, and I think she instilled that whole idea, the liturgy and the religiosity and all of that. Really, in later years, provided quite the foundation when I really got to know Christ. Right. So when I was ready to take that step forward and accept Christ, and then begin to see how it's through Christ that we can get to know the Father. Right. He says, you know the Father, you know me, you know the Father. So then the challenge becomes, well, do my kids know the Father because they know me? Or are they learning to know and develop their own personal relationship with Christ? But that's something that my mother really instilled in me, was that whole religious foundation that I could build on, and so when the Lord was working on me, then I could really truly understand some of the foundational issues behind what He was calling me to in a relationship. So I think that's what moms offer. Is there any particular Mother's Day story or experience that you recall?
Mother's Day story. Mother's Day story. Nothing comes to mind on actual Mother's Day. We typically, our tradition is after church every Mother's Day. Usually on Mother's Day I'll have my wife preach. To give a word to women and to moms and all that stuff. I'm actually preaching this week. I'm like, you can sit this one out, enjoy the service. But after church, we'll typically go to my in-laws and we'll celebrate my mother-in-law there. She's awesome woman as well. And then we just treat my mom to whatever she likes. And my mom is a very she loves her family. I think that's pretty common in many moms, and so we just try to hang out and honor her and celebrate her every Mother's Day. We love to laugh. She's pretty goofy. She tries to get the serious out of me, because I can be pretty dry sometimes. So I remember my mom. I'm always gonna remember my mom as just the fun mom. She's a very, very fun mom, and she she likes to have a good time. So every Mother's Day, that's gonna be my memory. Is just hanging out with mom, celebrating mom at the house, and just having a good time.
And there was a lot of times, I know I was pretty busy and what have you. It took me years before I went back and really thanked Mom for what she. Have you had an opportunity to just genuinely express thanks, take an action, initiate a letter, anything like that you've done for your mom?
So I'm very good at honoring in public. It's a little bit more awkward for me in private. Just being honest, one-on-one is not easy for me. And so I always take an opportunity to honor my mother publicly, as well as my wife. And so I do that. And of course, I think about my mom. I have some businesses that I run, and I try to give her some employment here and there. And she's always going to be my first choice, even if she doesn't have my the experience. I'm like, Mom, do you want to do this? To earn a little bit extra money, and that's just me trying to do my best to take care of her and all that stuff. She did send me a message. She's always the one to initiate. She's very 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 emotional. Sentimental, not emotional, sentimental. She sent me a text message earlier this week, and she said, Mijo, I want to let you know that I'm proud of you. I'm listening to your sermon again. She's my biggest fan. My mom is my biggest fan, even more than my wife. She's always my biggest fan. And so she sent that to me, and I let her know that I really appreciate it, and I told her I love her. Thank you. And so those moments, I think when I just hug my mom, which is something that I'm not really good at. But when I just kind of swallow my pride, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna hug my mom. That's the world to her. She's always trying to hug on me, my daughters, my sisters. So sometimes when I used to like, no, Mom, don't do that. Especially when I was a teenager. But now I just embrace it. I embrace her, and and that means the world to her.
Sure.
So.
My mom was a big hugger as well. Yeah. She just it's quite a special time, and those hugs are important. Hugs are important. Yeah. Well, do you have any final tips to dads out there as they come into their own, whether it's their own their bride who is the mother of their children or their mother? Do you have any tips or suggestions?
I think for men, you definitely have to be intentional about it. There is this day that is on everybody's calendar. Everybody knows about it. It's called Mother's Day. And so do your best to actually make them feel, loved, and realize that is not something that, my wife, if I do what I think makes her feel loved, she might not feel loved that way, because I think people receive love in different ways. So ask your wife, ask your mom, what you could do for them. And I think that'll, it could be a back rub, from the wife. It could be dinner, it could be a gift, whatever it is. But I think if you're intentional about it and you say, hey, I really want to honor you. I want to make you feel special because you are a special person in my life and I love you. And you ask them that question, they'll give you an answer. And do that very thing. Whether it could even be taking the kids for a few hours. That could do the trick for women.
Well, it sounds like you want them to read Gary Chapman's 5 Love Languages too.
Hey, that's really important. Yeah.
Well, there you go, dads. That's a good tip from John to encourage you to be intentional this Mother's Day, and I would encourage you not just Mother's Day, but look across the week. Look at ways that you can maybe take her out to lunch on just off the whim, or write a letter of appreciation, a tribute to her, and share that with your kids, and just let them know how you are honoring your mother and not forsaking her teaching. So. Just listen well, and listen to the women in your life, and honor and be with them, strengthen them, and guide them as your partner in life. That's the dad you're called to be. That's the dad the next generation needs. God bless. Thank you, John.